This was one newsroom.
Reymond. I can say I have a representation. I have a representation of the NBS newsroom in the studio today. Gentlemen and lady, I would like us to start from a very sensitive topic. They say that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Hatred cannot drive out hatred. What we saw in the barrio of the son of Naduri, Jakana, was what many have described as political intolerance. Does it not matter what could have sparked off the events, but I mean, someone was almost killed in there. Actually, up to now, he has not gotten out of hospital. Reymond, where do you think all this is coming from? How did we get to such a place?
I don't think you can ask a question of how we got to this place. First of all, violence really is just unwelcome in a political space, no matter who lets it out. But this has been a build-up from way back, from as early as 1986, when we allowed for political violence to be the one that determines situations. From as early, even before 1986, Kabaka Mutesa and Obote had a violent altercation because of differences in opinion and differences in political standpoints. So it's not that we have arrived at this place by any magic. This is the nature of our politics. We haven't solved the problem of violence in our politics. We haven't solved the problem of the use of violence towards advancing political arguments, advancing political standpoints. And I think it just manifests many people complain about drones picking up people, torturing them and returning them. I think Jakana Naduli himself had been tortured just before he passed on. Those are questions that we haven't resolved as a country. And these are questions that transcend Museveni. They are not Museveni problems. They transcend him. They are questions about who we are as a society, and we need to address them as a society.
Agatha, I would like to pick your opinion on that. Would you say that the events that have happened before, even from the recently concluded 2021 general elections, that could be breeding a lot of political intolerance that we have seen now start to manifest today?
First of all, when we talk of political intolerance, who are we blaming? The opposition, the people that beat up Majambere, right?
I think we're using that as because it's the most recent event.
Yeah,
but
I know, but I have heard it.
Yes.
When they say political intolerance, most of the
when
time,
it comes up,
they are talking about people's reactions. Yeah? And for me, that's what beats my understanding. You are not looking at what is causing that. Political intolerance all over the world breeds up because of suppression. So when people cannot express themselves in any way, you find that they are reacting. For example, when you talk about Jakana Naduli and what happened, that his burial being a symptom or a manifestation of political intolerance, why are we not talking about the events leading to his death? Yeah? So we need to always start from what is causing what is happening. Political intolerance will be there as long as people know that if I cannot be heard, that I can't express myself freely. And that's what has been happening in this country. You see someone go on Twitter and say something and they are picked up. Someone was talking about General MK and what he has said on Twitter, and for him, that has actually made him a general. But others, what they say on Twitter leads to something else. Now, when you're looking at that, you have to start understanding the causes, not just picking on the results. I saw the Minister for Guidance, Chris Baryomunsi, say, where are the human rights, the ever-noisy human rights activists when Majambere was beaten? You know, naturally, you cannot protect the protected. Majambere was seated in the car of the police and saying, I can kill 4 people from 7 and Mhozi. The opposition people, when they are arrested, or other people who don't believe in that, what happens? How are they arrested? When they're arrested, do they have the same freedom to sit in that car and sit comfortably as he sat and say that? So why should we come, because I take myself as a human rights activist, to protect people who already have protection? You come out when you see that they have arrested Jakana. We don't know where he is. He has been tortured. When he comes out, They have arrested Kakwenza. He comes out with Max. So those are people you fight for. But the people that are on that other side of the political aisle, they do not require protection. They actually are the ones that are tormenting others. So that's what is causing that political intolerance. Anyone who wants to end it should start by the things that are causing that, not just the results that we are seeing now.
Kapo, intolerance we see is not just in those events, but also even online. Some political figures, you just cannot comment about them in any way. You don't have the freedom to, or else they're going to unleash an army on you. I mean, how do you think we should deal with this?
Well, I would like to sort of associate myself with Reymond's submission earlier. The intolerance has not just started recently. It's just grown. It's just grown bigger because one thing that we must face today, as a matter of fact, is that we have created two groups of people at the moment. We've created the group of people who feel a little bit that they need to be heard so much. And then we've created another group of people who are on the defensive. And this has technically been pruned or made clear by our politics. We have created a politics of do or die, where a certain group of people come up and say, we are going to defeat these ones. And then the other ones say, we are ready for you. So, and these people are recruiting, they are recruiting fans subconsciously. And these are fitting themselves into the semantics that they carry. Majambere's case, first of all, is, though it should not be isolated, but for the first case, I blame Majambere for lacking a little emotional intelligence at that level. Because this was a kind of barrier that was going to be highly flamed. It was going to be fired up, and if he were to appear at the barrier, first of all, his behavior should have been toned down a little bit. He's not going to a barrier to rub it in. He's going to a barrier to attend. Of course, we've seen those who have come in peace, like this artist. Who is that the one who is indebted? Kusasira. She has been escorted out of the barrier without meeting, but Majambere may have presented himself as an enemy right before. All the way, Majambere, from what you hear, they talk about him before the barrier, and then he has been making points that are quite annoying to them, and then he appears, and then he does not want to lay low at the
like
barrier.
Now we have you.
He does.
So like someone dancing with
yes, he does not want to lay low, so he lacked a little emotional intelligence at the moment. He didn't know how to behave there. I would like to believe the worst that would have happened to him would have been to escort him out. Yes, but all the same, you cannot say that there is no, there are no situations that are causing this kind of behavior. There is a group of people who feel they've been in a disadvantaged position. Yes, I don't know how they feel that way, but on my side, I don't know how it operates. But then there's a group of people who are a little not on the side of the government, or they don't feel advantaged, but they want to make sure that they rub it in the faces of the others that no, we are in an advantaged position. And that is Majambere and group. That those are the people who are counting money on social media. They are being tapped counting money. They are being tapped having a specific kind of life, and they are attributing this kind of lifestyle to the government, which is wrong. So at a specific point in time, the government needs to, the NRM needs to associate themselves with people that do not further incense those that feel they have been disadvantaged. They need to associate themselves with people that live with a specific form of ideology that makes the other ones not feel so discriminated against. The Majamberes of the types are what is going to cause some kind of intolerance, because they are not willing to operate at the same level with the other guys.
Reymond, this intolerance we're talking about, is just couple it together with hate speech during functions, during weddings, during funerals, and even online. Do you think that this has been created because of Uganda's divisionism in terms of classes, or our current social, political, and economic situation?
Canary, first of all, the word to tolerate comes from a Latin word called tolerare, which is basically to suffer the opinion and actions of someone. Quite honestly, there are some people that have benefited from the time that we promulgated the 1995 Constitution, the economic changes that came in board. There are people that have benefited from that kind of economy, and it's created classes within society. Those classes have become political points of mobilization. A lot of the anger that you see towards the state is anger of people responding to state actions, or people responding to the lack of state services. A lot of political opposition mobilizing actually isn't even mobilizing based on different policy points. It's just mobilizing from, this doesn't work for us. Now, in a culture like that, you've got to be wise. You've got to have political elite. You've got to have political talent. Or you've got to be able to attract political talent that can deal with a problem. Now, for the NRM, sadly, who are in government and have been in government for years now, they've been purging themselves of that political talent. Talent that can sit back and appreciate the kind of problem that they are facing. Now, are we the only country faced with intolerance? Are we the only country where, politics gets to heated levels? No. Countries all over the world, politics is a matter of interest. People's interests have to be catered for. And also, across the world, there are classes in society, and that class conflict continues. But what separates the countries that are peaceful from us is that the existence of political talent and also the existence of documents that people can believe in. If you have a constitution that says in 10 years, this person's presidency will end, like the Kenyans know, for example, now, that Ruto's presidency will end in 10 years, the kind of political talent that builds up to replace him starts to work more efficiently, starts to think more differently of the problem. But with Uganda, it's not clear when we'll have a change of guard. It's not clear to people when their ideas will come to life. So every day is what Nelson has said, every day is a do or die for them. It's, if this person stays in power, my chances of economic survival, my chances of economic advancement get reduced. Remember, we don't have such a big lifespan. And we live in Uganda for about 68 years. You spend 25 of those 68 years in school. So people have very little time to amass wealth, that wealth that they'll pass on to their children, to live a comfortable life. These are things that everyone wants, whether you are NUP, whether you are FDC, whether you are NRM. Now, it falls onto the state to create the circumstances that allow for everyone to live that life. But the people that are holding onto the state have made it impossible to be replaced. They've made it impossible to attract talent from across the board. And that's really the crisis at the heart of it. And this isn't just a problem for the NRM, it's also a problem for the opposition, because for them, their inability to attract talent has less to do with who they are as a people, but more to do with the response that they've gotten. A lot of people who are bright and intelligent around handling political problems will not be comfortable with being thrown under a police pickup truck. You can say what you will about sacrifice, but people make choices. If someone has graduated with a master's in political science, they're less likely to see themselves being thrown under the bus. They're less likely to see themselves being tear gassed on the streets. Those things that are matters of revolution are not things that people who are classed are comfortable with. So if you want a revolution on the streets, that revolution won't come from people who have some sort of privilege, who've been to school and who understand, who can tell when they're faced with threat. And that's really the heart of the problem, that if we create a political culture that rids ourselves of political talent, it allows for these problems that have happened before, like I told you, to continue happening. Sadly, you can end Museveni's presidency today and start a Canary Mugume presidency. And that, the thing that you say intolerance, it won't go away. because the ownership of the state is what people are contesting. People want a chance to own the state, a chance to live a decent and comfortable life, a chance to be represented.
When you said Canary Mugume presidency, I saw Agatha.
I will be your prime minister, so I'll campaign for you.
I remember that meme online that emotoka drone wajira bako. Let's take a break. When we return, more discussions on this specific topic in just a bit.
Friends Stadium, everybody's. Do you have everything you need to buy a bundle for friends and family?
Yes.
I'm actually constrained to believe that it is political intolerance. I am inclined to believe that it is our moral decay as a society. We have seen in this government people who were fiercely opposed to the government working with the government. There are many examples. In the areas of the Lord's Resistance Army, there were people who you could clearly see that they were siding with the rebellion when it came to the politics of the time. But to date, you find most of those people are working with government. I don't think if there was political intolerance, such people would even think of coming to talks with government and agreeing to work with it. I think it is more of how, as a society, we have lost our cultures, we have lost our morals, and we want to take that or address it up as political intolerance. Uganda is not the only country with opposition parties. It is not the only country that has had a sitting president lead for long. The statistics are there. But how we conduct ourselves, we the political activists in this country, I think we are taking it to another level, and it is not about politics, it is about morals. In the villages, for example, when we were growing up, you would know that this family has issues with this family. But on certain functions, people outside that village would not know your differences. So these differences are not only in politics. When there is a burial, you must make sure that you attend. If there is a small contribution to make, you give it, irrespective of whether you have good relationship with that family or not. You would be quarreling in your own house. But the moment somebody knocks on the door, you all shut up and you all assume everything is okay. You would be having serious issues with a neighbor. Someone would not die and you celebrate. I have never seen that. I don't know in your respective villages if such things were there.
They were.
So, if we have differences in our politics, the fact that I don't support NRM, I support the Democratic Party, should not breed an enmity between me and you. For you are supporting NRM, me am DP. I am convinced probably that DP has better ideas, better programs for this country than your party. Now, beyond that, should we take our disagreements that far? So to me, it is not more of political tolerance. To me, it is how we have really become who we are not supposed to be. Because we know who we are as Africans, by the way. So you see things and you can clearly tell that this is not how Africans do things.
Agatha, is it really about divergence views? Is it really about what you think your ideas are vis-a-vis what my ideas are? It's just about how a certain group of people are treated vis-a-vis how the other group is treated. And also, what do we risk as a country, should we not deal with this problem now?
So Reymond tried to explain tolerance and intolerance. So tolerance means in itself that I'm not happy with you, but I have to
accommodate you.
So you have one government in power, and you have many other sects of this country that don't believe or disagree with that government in power. Now, ordinarily, they would have to put up with that. But when you have the government in power, and for me, I think that's where the problem starts. Because I disagree with Jotham here, who is talking about when you have issues and you have to cover up and show that you are okay. You can only do that for so long. You can't do it forever. Even in your homes, the families he's talking about, couples that fight, they can only cover up for a while. But it can't be a sustainable thing that you're forever covering up your differences, your fights, your quarrels with that person. At some point, we all know that this couple has been fighting. At some point, we all know that these families. So in our country, it has gone on for 37 years. And in those 37 years, because also Reymond talked about it not starting now with the current government, then I agree. The difference is the current government went to the bush to fight, to bring about that if we don't agree with people, we should still accommodate them. I want all of you to look at causes of political intolerance everywhere, not just in Uganda, wherever it is. It's caused by the other party which doesn't have power, feeling suppressed. So if the civic space, the political space, every space in this country shrinks by the day, if people know that I cannot go to police, to court, to whatever institution and get any remedy, what is going to happen? Are they going to cover up like Jotham is saying for forever? Mm-hmm. They covered up for the time they could because it hasn't started now. It just keeps growing, and as it grows, people cannot live in that pretense that Jotham is asking.
I think she has gotten me out of context, really.
No.
Canary, allow me correct this impression.
Okay, a minute, please.
She's gotten me out of context, and she's building her argument on a misunderstanding of my argument. If you are talking of going to police and you don't get helped, are you trying to talk of corruption? Is that what you are saying? Or judiciary?
No, it's not corruption.
So are you talking of politics, that police is politically briefed not to help certain individuals in society?
Before you came, Jotham, I gave an example.
What I wanted to say, I found you maybe on a different
chapter. Can I clarify? Because when I bring in police, I'm not still talking about the family analogy and the villages you're talking about. I am just saying that people past that time of trying to cover up. And I have given you an example that even in your family, you keep fighting with your wife for forever and see if every day someone knocks and it stays as if something happened. Before you came, I gave an example of Majambe. We were talking about him. I don't know if you know him. I think is why he triggered this conversation. Majambe was beaten up at a burial of Jakana Nanduli. He's a member of the NRM. He's a supporter of NRM. He was apparently beaten up by NUP or other opposition people. Majambe was picked up by a police car. He sat in front with the police guy, I think, driving, and he was seated comfortably saying, I will kill 4 or more people for Museveni and Mhozi. And I asked here, how many opposition people have been arrested or picked up in that manner? How many people can sit and know I am here under the protection of the police in this country, the opposition people?
I will give you an answer.
Yeah.
You know a gentleman called Lumbiye?
Who?
Lumbiye, I don't know whether he's a supporter of NUP. Okay? Lumbiye has authored videos. Go to social media, people with accounts in their names, threatening those they feel do not belong to their political ideology. They are there. you get onto your phone. What I am saying, we may have disagreements. It is not an issue of cover-up. For example, I don't have to like you. You don't have to like me. But if we are workmates, there is a common meeting point between me and you.
If at
that
work,
is not a cover-up.
If at work you're treated the same.
Well, wait. It's not a cover-up. Okay? I have gone to your burial. You have beaten me to death. Is that an ideology of the party? And is that what we want to see as a country? We have seen opposition leaders who were fierce critics of this government and President Museveni. But they are working with him. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in this country we can't sit down and talk about and resolve? We have the National Consultative, the NC what? Wait, don't.
Yeah, well, I'm coming to you, Kapo.
Yes. We have the National Consultative, is it the National Consultative Council?
Yes. Forum,
National Consultative Forum, where parties meet, discuss major national issues, and harmonize on how to approach those issues. We have IPOD, Interparty for Parliamentary Organization. Okay, there are avenues within which parties can meet, talk, discuss, quarrel, agree, disagree, but at the end of the day, you are looking at this country called Uganda. And the moment you promote intolerance as your ideology, you are not building the future of this country.
Who is promoting
Thanks, Joseph. Let me get here to Kapo. Isn't that the problem, that even the platforms for dialogue that we would run to are all failed institutions?
Now, we must be arguing from different points of view. What I had earlier said here is that, and for Josam's side, Josam is standing on the side of the elite side, where we can disagree. I am for the NRM, and Agatha is the FDC, but we have points of meet. Yes, we are at a certain level where we can emotionally integrate on different perspectives, and we can talk. Then she tells me, no, this one is bad in NRM, and I give her the other bits. But now the guys we are dealing with, in this case, as the reasoners that are meeting this intolerance, are guys who do not have, they have all points of separation now. And intolerance has grown now because we have, of course, for some part I support you, we have a wrong crop of people now. When Museveni and his colleagues were going to the bush, they were ideologically angry. They had a focus on ideology. They were angry ideologically.
So they also did not tolerate, right?
And they knew where to put their intolerance. They knew who to take it to. Now, the crop of people that has come today, they are generally angry. You see the difference? The other group were ideologically angry. They had a focus. These ones are generally angry. There is no ideology in their anger. They don't have a focus of it. Yes?
I don't get
you get
that.
No, what I think you get. This is what I said. The crop of Museveni and the NRA originals were a crop that were...
What is causing the general anger is the crop we have now.
What is causing the general anger, the first case that Joseph puts up is that, first of all, we have a decay. We cannot let that be. There is a decay somehow. Yes? The group of people we are having now, the crop of people that has come, and the ones that are joining politics from a lower level.
So the decay makes them angry.
No. It's partly.
Okay.
They are not as up here as the ones that were there before. So the ideology is missing down there. And this ideology that is missing with them, it is creating a general anger. And they are interpreting things from a level where it has to be expressed through actions for those who they feel they are angry about. So from Josam's perspective, he's only sitting on the other side, but he makes a point on
the one-sided point.
Which you call the right side. Reymond, as you build your point, I also want you to comment on this statement from the Uganda Human Rights Commission about the events on the barrio.
So
because it was accused of being
But
selective.
Reymond, first tell us what was banning.
Why influencing the submission?
We've got. I don't care what you believe in. We've got something called the rule of law. There are laws in this country, and those laws govern how we relate with each other. What I believe in, what you believe in, those are matters of persuasion. You can work to persuade me to believe in the things that you believe in. But as you're persuading me, it has to be governed by something called the rule of law. Now, if you start from as early as the 2000s and you detain a political candidate and say this person is engaging in rebel activity, you say this person has raped their housemaid, you accuse that person of treason. None of those charges stands in a court of law. Later they discover some of those charges are fabricated. You create that kind of animosity and anger where people say the law is actually being used to make political ends meet. And you create disbelief within the law. And that builds up. In 2006, you detain political opponents. People campaign from behind police cells for years, for months. They're campaigning behind political cells. But these are people who just disagree with you on how the country should be governed. These are people who think that, maybe if we govern this country differently, the outcomes will be different. Now, that culture has been built over a period of time. And before you even go to the National Consultative Forum, before you go to IPOD, which are institutions that don't exist within our constitution you have the Parliament of Uganda. What message do you send to people when people can walk into Parliament in the middle of a parliamentary exchange and beat up on people, And after that beating, you haven't charged the parliamentarians inside Parliament who you say are being violent. You haven't charged them with common assault under the laws of Uganda. Neither have you charged the people that beat them. So you make the disbelief within the rule of law. You make people disbelieve that the rule of law exists. Now, that political culture, like I told you, what we're suffering now is the problem of that political culture. And a lot of the effort that has to go in towards building that political culture, sadly, or rather, properly falls within the NRM because they are the governing party. You are the party in power. A lot of what you're seeing is a response to the actions that you have. So you've got to think, how can I attract political talent that allows me to act in such a way that the response that I get is civil? Like I told you, we're not the only country with a broken economy. There are countries with fundamentally flawed economies. And those countries still have an existence of a rule of law. People are exchanging with each other. But if you erode that rule of law, if you can beat up on people, if someone can say, look here, 3/4 of my campaign team is detained for 6 months with no reprieve. If someone can come and produce a list, and even government produces a list of 100 people who they say are in different cells, just simply because they believe in a political ideology, you erode the rule of law. Okay. And once you erode the rule of law, it becomes every man for himself. That's where state started from. State started from the point of, I must protect my personal property and wealth as I advance my economic opportunities. And over time, people said, okay, because I'm advancing my ideas, I end up killing Canary because he stands in the way of my economic participation. Then they created these institutions. They created things called constitutions. They created things called the state. They created things called the police and empowered those institutions to deal and create a semblance of rule of law. So if you want to solve this problem, like I said, you've got to attract political talent that asks the NRM, what is it as a governing party we've done to inculcate the rule of law in this country? What is it we can do with the existing budget that we get from people, the taxes that we attract from people? What is it that we can do to inculcate the rule of law? How different can we talk to people that we disagree with? And how can we make them believe that the law exists and it applies to everyone? It doesn't matter whether you're the NRM, it doesn't matter whether you're NUP, whether you're FDC. Again, like I said, people are emotive, Someone will ask, why is Majambele seated in a police car and shouting that they want to kill someone? Yet, retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye, veteran politician, respected, doesn't even get the chance to sit in a police car. He's thrown under the police car. Those things, they create political emotions, and they create emotive points which people act for.
Thanks, Reymond. Jotham, I want you to comment on the letter by the Human Rights Commission and the different arguments accusing the Commission of being selective. How come it never writes such letters and condemns such actions when they are meted onto opposition political figures by the state?
What do you mean? You Google. Go to your Google and see statements, press statements from the Uganda Human Rights Commission. They have done it before. The problem here is that the neutral voices have been lost. So we have the political activists, and for you to be listened to and to be attended to, you must belong to the group that does not believe in the sitting government. And that's what I notice. Believe it or not, we have seen and please don't push me to speak like I'm speaking on behalf of NRM. But these are facts. These are facts. We have all seen them. They have been on TV. They have been on social media.
No one is pushing
so
you.
I'm not here to speak on behalf of the NRM party. In any case, I don't belong to any party. Myself as Taremwa. And I don't have any registration card. But what I am saying is, where are the neutral voices in our country? We have seen hooligans dressed in party colors, beating others dressed in different party colors of theirs.
And when he says hooligans, we know the people he's referring to.
You know, we have seen them there. We have seen that. To me, the elites, as the elites, we are not doing our part to shape the destiny of this country. The young people, the young corporates, the young ideologues, we have become political activists. We have become mouthpieces of NGOs. Where are the professors, where are the elites to come and discuss the future of this country?
I thought that's the whole essence of opening up civic space.
Government opened the civic space. We all agree. Okay?
No, we don't.
But every day we are complaining. We are here quarreling. How has the young generation, the educated generation, a better generation from those who have, like he put it, those who are not fighting on the basis of ideology but on the basis of anger, how are we guiding them? As who are educated. We are here actually stoking more sentiments to them. Before President Museveni went to the bush, someone was telling us how he developed the idea of the movement. He looked at UPC, it had its Protestants, DP, Catholics. Others, you know, the population was divided into parties on the basis of religion, on the basis of tribes. And then he talked of a third force. There has to be a third force that should look over and above all these issues. So the young people, the Canaries, the Agathas, the Weires, the Reymonds, I probably also should put myself in that category. How are we preparing those below us, and how are we putting those ahead of us to account to this country, so that tomorrow we have a better country that is very accommodative of people with different views.
Thanks, Jotham. Allow me cross to Parliament, because there's an election going on, the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, and we have our own Shamim Nabakos on standby to give us an update on what's happening. Francis Ulwega and Sam
Model, you have the girls' scheme, they have youth livelihood, and all these programs now. This is the right time to get 75,000 and make them function. Register them from Dubai as they come. You're like, here, put them and say, register yourselves, you're all from the same place. You can form one cluster of Myoga, and we shall support you, and this is where you go. This is where they can beat the noob from. These people need to be integrated into the system, and they need to be productive. Otherwise, I am seeing that after we fight about this entire labor thing, the next group you are going to have 75,000 are going to be here, and are going to be fighting at barriers.
Okay.
Really?
Agatha, how best can this process be streamlined?
Okay, so I have a very vintage view of that. I have many relatives that have worked there. Where I was asking whether the 75 number is the one who was stuck or the one who were there. Yep. Where am I coming from? They are coming from Dubai, the main...
Let me clarify. 75,000, not Ugandans working abroad, Ugandans
the ones
stuck.
who are stuck, who are supposed to come back.
In which country?
Who are in deportation centers.
Yes, in Middle East, UAE, Jordan,
UAE, I think.
Qatar, all these countries.
So my brothers have worked there, and they always tell us how the people who have better jobs in those places are Filipinos and Kenyans. So you find they're the supervisors of Ugandans who are under them. Now, when there's a report that the the Committee on Labor, Gender and Social whatever in Parliament did in 2019 about it, and they were actually saying exactly that. So when you get there, you are treated according to how they got you from your country. The laws, the regulations. The reason Filipinos are more protected there and not as exploited as Ugandans is that Filipinos have a very rigorous regulatory framework for going abroad. That committee detailed that. The institutional framework, the legal framework. For us in Uganda, we have no law on labor externalization. We have just the regulations of migrant workers under the Employment Act. And you had asked also a question about why are these agencies not held culpable. So these agencies, they are agents of companies the other side. And there's some NGOs that have even taken them to court. And they're saying, but we are just agents. There's a principle the other side. So even the registration, the requirement that all these agencies are registered has not helped. If they send people there and you are not making sure that the people on whose behalf they have acted are within your realm of reach, there's nothing much you're going to do. There is a system called the kafala system in the Middle East, where they say sponsorship, where a person there sends money to agencies here, and they take you as their worker. If they take you like that, you are a property of that person. They call him or her your sponsor. When you get there, they take away your passport. So you have no right to look for another job. You have no right to return home. I helped someone to go there in 2019. She died. She didn't die there, but she went through conditions that led to her death. Because she called me and said, I don't want to work here anymore. I feel mistreated within the first month, but they have my passport. I can't leave. I can't look for another job. I asked the company that had taken her here, and they said, we only have to talk to the company that reached out from the other side so that they bring her back. She didn't get help until she ran away from that place. When they got her, they put her in a deportation camp. I think for them, they were willing to bring her back. Then COVID struck, the lockdown. By the time she returned, she was mentally unstable. She couldn't walk. She couldn't tell us what happened because she was already mentally ill. And she died a few months ago, 3 months ago. So when you have people treated like property, and when you have a country that allows that, because all these things have been happening. I did not know why that report of the parliamentary committee, which was produced in November 2019, has never been implemented. So all these things you're saying, also, like I said about the political intolerance we are talking about, let's start from what is causing them. When Nuke brought back people today, and the next day there were lines at the airport of guards wearing those things to go back. The reason they are going back is because, when the lady I am talking about who died, when she was going, she told me her heart, she doesn't feel comfortable going. I said, then do not go. She said, but if I don't go, my child in the village, I can't even buy her eschew. So the desperation here has made people to say, you know, even if there's 1% chance that I won't die, that I'll work, I will exploit the 1%.
Okay, thanks, Agatha. Raymond, part of the problem, and we should face it, Ugandans who go abroad on tourist visas, and when they get there, they want to go into hiding, and then with hope that they will find a job, you know, somehow, somewhere. And this is a very big number that we're talking about. How do you think that this can be streamlined?
My views on this are rather radical. Agatha and I were stuck behind a line of girls going to UAE, I think, about a month ago at some airport. I've always felt, first of all, the wording. There's space for migrant workers in the sense that I migrate and work elsewhere. I'm myself a migrant worker because part of the time my job is in Kenya. But labor export presumes that you are exporting a product, and in this case, human beings are the product. So companies come here and prime these human beings into a product. They teach them how to use washing machines. They teach them how to wash plates. And then they start looking for where to sell these individuals. If the perception of the industry remains as a labor export industry, in those words, labor export, it will continue to remain confusing, because once you buy a commodity, the way that you treat the commodity is different from the way that you treat a person that has come to work, who is a professional. Yes, they're a skilled professional offering a service, earning their wage, and thereafter leaving. So the first has to go to the wording of the matter. I've insisted with people at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, I don't see why we should allow for labor export firms to exist in Uganda. There should be space for migrant work firms where you say the government of UAE has this number of jobs of people, and people here can apply directly to those jobs and find out whether they've been accepted in the applications or not. But if we continue to have these companies that take advantage of desperate young people in this economy and offer them this kind of green haven, saying, you know, if you go here, your returns will be much better, and take them and treat them in the way that they treat them, we'll still have a problem. Now, of course, the young girls, very, very few of them understand what it means to be on a tourist visa and what it means to be on a work visa or to get a work permit. Very few of them understand that. That understanding is mostly put onto them by labor export firms. These firms sit down and say, we will transport this number of people on tourist visas and then try and find them work there. And it's also been made to feel like there's some level of success that you get from working outside of this country. You know, if you leave the country, wherever you go, the outcomes will be much better than the outcomes here. I mean, I've been in the UAE. The cost of living there could literally wipe out your salary if you're not earning a very good salary. So there's got to be a hard-pressed movement on that. But also, again, Canary, short-term solutions do not help. There's got to be a long-term solution to this. One of those long-term solutions is making the economy here work. This economy currently isn't employing as many people as the graduates that it's churning out. This economy isn't paying very well. The Bank of Uganda has a statistic that's just been released recently. Majority of people in this economy earn 150,000 shillings in a month. That's very little money, really little money. There's only 1% of us who earn 1 million shillings and above. Again, those... Everyone here, at least I know, is in that category. That creates a problem. That economic problem that we have here creates that level of desperation. It creates that idea that if I leave, the outcomes will be much better. Someone earning, even people earning about 400, 500,000 shillings here feel, if I go to Dubai and earn 2 million shillings, my outcomes will be much better. But they forget that there's a cost of living attached to living in Dubai, which might wipe out all your savings. So there's also got to be a broad way to approach this problem. But I think the first is to wipe out this thing called labor export and move on from labor export into migrant workers, in which case people's labor is respected. The international labor laws, even if Uganda doesn't have firm labor laws here, the international labor laws which we're a signatory to, which are really firm on how you can treat a person working for you if they're a migrant worker. And I think that many of our people would be helped by those laws.
Thanks. Jotham, I think many feel like the problem begins here. You have labor export companies owned by Uganda's untouchables. And yes, I mean, there's been a clampdown, I think previously in 2019 by the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, but you have mushrooming companies that come up each and every day. And then when problems come up, they're not held culpable. Actually, they do change names every after 3 months. Don't you think that the problem needs to be fixed here first?
To me, I think the problem is not the labor companies. And I think we need to be clear on this. Because if you understand the operations of the labor companies, then you will believe that it's not a problem to have these labor companies here. Ugandans have gone to countries abroad, they have worked, they have improved on their livelihoods back home. So we can't simply say the problem is labor companies. Because people have begun businesses from monies and abroad. The little I know is that when you have a company here dealing in external employment, they deal with companies. First of all, there has to be a bilateral agreement between Uganda and the country where the labor export is going to be. As we speak now, I am not aware of any agreement between Uganda and the UAE as far as labor export is concerned.
They have signed some.
Please, bring it here. I am aware there is no any bilateral agreement between the Republic of Uganda and United Arab Emirates. I am aware there is a bilateral agreement between Uganda and Saudi Arabia. So if we are saying most of these ones are coming from UAE, chances are that these are people who went on tourist visas because they think they can access opportunities there. And in this case, they never went through any labor company, but they maneuvered through their own means to go there and get some work to do.
Went for the expo.
On reaching there, one, they are looking for the employment and probably it is not forthcoming. Two, they don't have money to bring them back. Three, the visa has expired.
They can't be 75 people who have gone through those changes.
Cumulatively, yes.
No.
Cumulatively.
And also,
because I don't know what figures you have. How many are they?
Who came back, who had been taken by a company.
Wait.
So,
Wait, intolerance that we are.
no, I am giving information. I am just
we have to exhibit tolerance here.
But how have I slapped you? I am just giving information.
Don't divert me. So, chances are that, one, they went on, did whatever they did and were able to get out there, and probably jobs were not forthcoming. Now, the tourist visa of 3 months expires. The little money you carried on you have utilized it, so you are stuck there. And it's not only Ugandans. There are many, even other nationals from other countries. They do. But what happens if you were Ugandan and you were in that situation? Approach your embassy. Let the embassy know. Because they have that moral obligation to help you
I've personally spoken to the embassy.
As a Ugandan.
I've personally spoken to the embassy. The ambassador has said that they do not have enough resources to return each and every Ugandan who is stuck. The money does not exist. One, holding places, and two, the flight prices, the flight costs. They do not have such resources.
Okay, in the first case, did he know or did she know that number of Ugandan nationals existed in that country? Because if he or she knew, it is possible that he would have raised that budget in advance. But these are cases that are springing up. We have Ugandans who are here. They need to go home. So I think it is an issue that the government can help. But the facts could remain that these people went even without government knowledge. Even the embassy was not aware that they are there. But now that they are aware, so what they should do is to approach the Ugandan embassy and see how they can be helped to come back home. But for the labor companies in Uganda that are taking our people abroad, I think there is already a mechanism, a transparent mechanism, okay, between these labor companies and the corresponding companies in those countries. Because I am even told that if Canary has a company and Reymond has gone under Canary's company, you reach there is a receiving company that you operate under. When Reymond is coming back, there is a Ugandan that is going to stay there and supervise the welfare, the issues of fellow Ugandans there. But we have also seen these things here. When I used to work with the elections body, we got issues from journalists who never even had the employment IDs, who were abused by their fellow nationals. So if there is a problem, let's dissect it, let's understand it, let's get a solution for it, but let's not politicize it and wrap it into our political problems.
Thanks, Peter. By the way, I've spoken to so many victims, and they have told me that when they get there, it's as if it's a slave market. They are put and lined up there, and the sponsors, so-called sponsors, have to come and pick. Sometimes they have to turn the person and say, change, look the other side. Okay, this one will work. I don't want this one.
That story I don't have.
No, but that's the reality.
But those could be some few indisciplined companies or individuals, not even companies. Secondly, Agatha,
I have a question.
You are aware that the Ugandan law, you were saying we don't have legal frameworks to protect our people abroad. I expect you to know that beyond these borders of Uganda, the laws will not work for you. You have to submit to the laws of that country.
Okay, Agatha, you had
you want to disagree?
The first question is on the bilateral agreements. So Uganda has bilateral agreements with Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Has it helped? Has it stopped these problems? Because I narrated a story of someone who went to Saudi Arabia and came.
The Jordan one was stopped. She doesn't want to say that.
The government was not cooperating in terms of...
But it's not that I don't want to say that.
You say
the reason I'm saying is that the problems are starting here. Now, if you are saying that the laws of this, why do we have them? Why do we have a regulation?
They are for us. And for those people who come to Uganda,
they are to
they are not
sure.
No, please. People are listening and watching.
They are to
help them understand that our Ugandan laws will not protect you in Kenya. These are East African countries, by the way.
But how will you go to Kenya if the Ugandans
Reymond
here?
raised a good argument. There are international
Now
labor
the
laws.
intolerance is here. I can't even make this point because
Okay, I have tolerated you now.
The laws are to make sure that you on the ways and the means through which you go. You get my point. I'm going to read for you laws from the Philippines. I have said here, you can ask anyone who is there, how Philippines are treated in those countries, especially in Dubai, in Qatar, and in those other countries where many people are going to work. Philippines has the highest number of immigrant workers that side than us, and they are treated better. So what laws, are they for them subjected to different laws in Dubai than Ugandans? It is because Philippines make sure that their people go with clear contracts.
Okay.
Here we are dealing with agents. We are not dealing with the companies.
We are dealing with the agents of agents.
Of those companies.
But we
Gentlemen and ladies,
we have companies here too, and they are quite a number because
those are the agents of the companies in those countries.
The company is required to deposit a security that has been revised from 50 to 100 million. The company is required to take 14 days of orientation so that you have a cultural understanding of where you're going, and this is taken to later. So these things are there. But of course, even like Agatha says, Philippines are also there suffering. Some of them are there. So it's not a whole rosy kind of thing. Working outside the country is first of all, it's not as rosy as it can be working here. So it's
gentlemen and ladies, I can't thank you enough for your busy schedules. You've managed to make time for the media roundtable. And for all of you watching, let's continue the conversation. Let us know what you think about these topics. Hashtag NBS Media Roundtable. My name is Canary Mugume. Good morning.
that I don't want to say that.
You say
the reason I'm saying is that the problems are starting here. Now, if you are saying that the laws of this, why do we have them? Why do we have a regulation?
They are for us and for those people who come to Uganda.
They are to
they are not
sure.
No, please. People are listening and watching.
They are to
help them understand that our Ugandan laws will not protect you in Kenya. These are East African countries, by the way.
But how will you go to Kenya if the Ugandans
Reymond
here?
raised a good argument. They are international
now
laws.
The intolerance is here. I can't even make this point because
okay, I have tolerated you now.
The laws are to make sure that you on the ways and the means through which you go. Exactly, you get my point. I'm going to read for you laws from the Philippines. I have said here, you can ask anyone who is there, how Philippines are treated.